So we do this a few times a year. And it's your time to really get to what is it that's on your heart? What is it that you would like to have addressed or like to talk about this morning? And in Unity, we don't, even though we come together in a similar way that a lot of spiritual communities do, we don't come together in a way that anyone on this platform, whether it be myself, any other minister that's here, any of the musicians or leadership. Was that me, Steve? Okay. That it's not about telling anyone what to think, that we explore principle together and we measure everything against our heart. And so we're here in a community that co-creates and in a community of wisdom and light, and with a community of people that meditate, pray, and know that the truth is available and it is equally present everywhere, whatever our role is in this spiritual community. So that's a beautiful thing about Unity. And I'll take some of those to get started, Jacob. Thank you. Do you want your basket back? And for our live streamers, if you have a question, if you're a live streamer, Reverend Jackie Lanati is online, and we'll be able to receive your questions if you have one online so that we can include you in this experience.
I received a couple on the way in.
Oh, good. And do we have I used to play this, and when I would play it alone, it's kind of like a game. When I would play it alone when I was in Montclair, New Jersey, I would let everyone know that I reserve the right to use a lifeline. I could call out a lifeline. And sometimes have a minister on call. Do you want to answer this one? All right, so here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready to hear what the person next to you is thinking about? What they're wondering? All right. How do you create a healthy relationship with friends, family, and significant others? How do you create healthy relationships with friends, family, and significant others? Good question. I would start with saying just a couple of key pieces when you get into your own spiritual growth and how that relates to relationships. One big piece is you love yourself and you respect yourself. Another big piece is that you, that's me, isn't it? You create healthy boundaries. If this gets unbearable, we can all decide to forget it and use that one. But you create healthy boundaries. So you learn about codependence. You learn about self-awareness, and you learn about the principles that activate healthy relationships, and you become more aware. Not that you get rid of all of the things, because we're humans and we have a lot of the human condition in us, but we begin to transform things and shape-shift things that tend to be destructive in relationships. So whereas someone might say, someone else is hurting me or doing this to me, you take full self-accountability and know, I'm driving myself crazy through blank. Or I am choosing to stay in this relationship or not have a boundary or not have a healthy bit around X, Y, Z in a relationship. So we recognize the point where we are creating, where what we're bringing to the table, what someone else is bringing to the table, actually interact. And we step into our power to change our lives and transform our lives. And that includes creating dynamics that are healthier in relationships in family. Do you want to add to that?
I'm thinking understanding one's own family system has been a real key for me in healthy relationship. And I'm thinking of my marriage relationship, my spouse, how much he's taught me about my own family system, holding up a mirror, and also how much I've come back again and again and again to self-awareness, self-accountability, and when I think something is happening to me, which is truthfully really rare these days, that things are happening to me, they're just happening. And I'm understanding what I make that mean. That's been a real key for me in healthy relationship.
That's good. Another piece on that, what I make things mean. Mm-hmm. To really look at that relationships, all of these relationships happen often in the space internally, but also in the space between us. Mm-hmm. And that there is so much programming that goes into it, that we all have frameworks from childhood, from early systems in our lives that create how we frame and how we see things. That two people don't hear or experience something in the same way. And so once we get that and we know that about ourselves, then we apply self-compassion and compassion to other. And then there's also a few really good books. I'm thinking, is it How to Get the Love You Want?
Are you thinking of Byron Katie?
Well, Byron Katie.
Almost anything Byron
Rock
Katie.
Your World.
I Need Your Love. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Getting the Love You Want, Harville Hendrix. And then also Gary Chapman's work, which is work on love languages and forgiveness. But it's all about translation, how something can mean something to me but not mean the same thing to you. So if you want to do some rock star advancement in those realms, dive into some of those authors. All right. How do you free yourself of sadness of a situation after you've moved through forgiveness? I've forgiven myself for my part of the situation. I've forgiven the other for their part, and yet it is still incredibly sad to think about and when seeing the other person. So I want to start with that one and just honor the person that wrote this question and your courage to share that with all of us. And I want to say that for me, it's being with that. Just fully being with that and allowing that to be okay. And allowing sad to be okay. And allowing it to be there as long as it needs to be there. Just letting it be not a good thing or a bad thing, but just a what is. And cradling oneself. Cradling oneself and breathing through that process. And knowing that this too shall pass. But allowing that state, not being in battle with the sadness. This one's for you. Let's see what it is. It's perfect that it's for you. If those of you that don't know that, Brenda and I were roommates in ministerial school. So we were in the same class in ministerial school, and we got the divine appointment of being little buddy neighbors. We both got thrown into the house kind of by accident and shoved into extra rooms that weren't really available.
Divine appointment.
Until they needed someplace to put the two of us. Then they stuck us right next to each other in rooms. And so we have a little quirkiness between us. But this is a great Reverend Brenda question. Why do sad, bad things happen?
I love how she uses me for the tough ones. Why do sad, bad things happen? If I were in a spiritual counseling session and someone asked that question, the first response that rises in me, and I get it, that it sounds like a bumper sticker, and I have an aversion to bumper stickers. It sounds like an easy fix, and it is not. The event in and of itself is neutral. The event is neutral. It happened. And again, we come back to what do I make that mean? What is my lens? What meaning do I give it? Am I looking for someone to blame, shame, or persecute because this thing happened or someone said something? I think that's a real important question to ask ourselves. Why do they happen? Life brings it. Life brings it, and we're in the human condition. And as far as I can tell, I've not yet met the perfect consciousness in the human condition. I know it exists. I know we're all carrying it, but getting it to that demonstration level, I think that's what they call the promised land. So when we're in the promised land, I don't think we'll call things sad or bad anymore. Does that make sense? It's like the event is neutral. What do I make it mean? Who am I looking to blame for my not response, for my reaction, for my feeling about it, for my words about it.
You're so good at hopping into non-duality.
Ah.
And I would add to that, depending on what's on your heart of what you're looking at with this too, that energy is energy, life force is life force. We have free will, and we can do what we choose to do with that free will. There's an electrical socket up here. I could either plug in a lamp and light the world, or I could plug in something else and start creating in line with what most minds would judge to be atrocious creation. And that's my free will. That's my choice. So I can act in line with love. And we know that where there are systems and when there are people where love is withheld, and especially when it's severely withheld, that it creates a human condition that then often creates suffering and pain. And so where there is, where love is not celebrated, and where beings are not encouraged to realize that they are born blessed, and where they're not honored and respected, we see the appearance of what we call bad and sad things.
Yeah, I think at the core of it, when an individual is suffering, not knowing they're blessed, not knowing they're divine beings, I think sometimes there's like this unconscious urge for others to feel what I am feeling. If I'm in fear, if I'm in hate, if I'm anything the absence of love, I want someone else to share that with me.
Please comment on the law of attraction. What you think about, you bring about. And the correlation of that with illness, i.e., do we attract our own illnesses, etc.?
If you read Joel Goldsmith, a New Thought writer, if you read, I'm trying to think of a couple of other Unity authors, in the old school Unity, I think they're very clear that we create our human condition. Do I attract illness? Do I attract dis-ease? I see this as a both and. Part of me says yes, of course, not consciously. And it's also part of, once again, part of the whole human condition. So I'm operating in my own energy field, in my own consciousness field. I'm operating in the field of divine mind, and I'm also operating in the field of collective consciousness. And 2 out of those 3, as far as I can tell, believes in the human condition of illness and dis-ease. I just remember, how many of you ever knew Earl Anderson? Years ago, he was an instructor
At Unity Institute.
Here at the village. And I just remember, gosh, this was probably, 15 years ago. I remember so clearly in one of our classes, which happened to be on prosperity, he said, poverty exists out there because it exists here. So I think the important thing in this principle is to use the principle and to avoid using the principle for self-blame or shame, or to pass that off to someone who's dealing with illness or disease.
Yeah. I would say too, and we even had this conversation with Earl, I remember. It was an interesting, fiery class because we talked about smoking and whether or not, smoking, and then you can add anything in there. If I eat chemicals and I put cancer-causing chemicals in my body that we know cause that or whatever, can I transmute that energy, or can I just, by the power of my mind, go, I don't see this as a possibility of anything ill or anything bad happening. Can I just do that? And what we came to, we're not exactly quite the typical answers, but it was like, well, why would you want to why, if you have spiritual energy that you could transmute that, and I have no doubt that someone that really works with that energy could transmute the energy of anything. I mean, there are people alive today that have transmuted energies that would kill the normal person. There are people that use transcendental meditation to go beyond what would, harm a physical body, as far as bringing your body to certain temperatures, etc. Lots of things. It's the idea is, why would you want to expend your energy like that? Maybe do some other things with it, and that it would take a deep spiritual practice. But I think the collective piece is really important to remember too. The collective consciousness, how we treat our environment, what are we creating, and then the individual consciousness, and really never using that as metaphysical malpractice. But I'll give just a little example. There was a time in my life where there was a lot of stress going on, and my cats started losing their hair. It started with one, and I realized there were like patches missing. And this is me being bad at telling a joke. I just told you the answer before I told you the story. But go back to the first part about the cats are losing their hair and patches. And I thought, this cat probably has cancer. It's probably something like that. There was a little spot that I'd been noticing for a while. And more hair, and they're starting to look pretty gnarly, like little patchies. They're little patchies, not kitties with fur. And then the other one starts getting it, and I'm thinking, now, what's going on? So I take them to the vet, and about a couple $100 later, the vet says, is there any tension or anxiety going on in your life or in the household or anything that they could be living with? And I was like, yeah. So cleaning that up, 3 months later, the cats are getting their hair back. And there's nothing wrong. Like what we're almost going to be eternally patchy cats, and they said, you're going to need to get these shots and keep them on this forever, because it's not going to fix itself. So that is something emotional, something invisible that was happening in the environment. Those were words, thoughts, feelings that were happening in the environment where these cats, these fairly lackadaisical, don't have a worry in the world, have all of their needs met, were living. And their bodies reflected the energy of dis-ease and stopped working properly.
A response to an energy field.
Exactly. Now, did I give my cats patch fever? Yes. And did I try? Was there anything conscious about this? Did I have any idea? No. But what occurred to me the moment, the 3-month mark, and I realized, the cats have their hair back. I thought to myself, how must my body be responding in a different way now? What kind of healing that I'm not being aware of, I'm not aware of consciously, probably took place in my energy field as well. So that kind of brings it down to not as, ethereal or weird, but just thinking, yeah, we're all swimming in a sea of energy. And whether you take that as being in your own mind, in your own body, in your friendships, your family, in your relationships, in your spiritual community, in your nation, or in this world, we are swimming in a sea of energy, and absolutely that affects the chemical makeup of our bodies. My cats have hair now. That's good. President is fear-based. I, for one, am looking forward. Should I read this before I read it out loud? I, for one, am looking forward to seeing what good can come from his presidency. God doesn't give us a spirit of fear. Let's call forward something good and not focus on fear. I didn't vote for him, but I'm willing to make lemonade. There is only one thing to fear, and that is fear itself. How much of our words that come out of our mouths about our new president, I'm not sure where that goes. So make lemonade, maybe.
Can I see
Again.
that?
Yeah.
There's one sentence I want to...
So I say amen about the fear, amen about the principle and the practice there. In any moment where, because our lives are full of things that we chose and that we thought, I didn't choose this, right? That's the human condition, right? I chose this, I didn't choose this. Craving, aversion, fear, love. Anytime we choose to step into love and we choose not to be at war with what is, but to be in the moment of what is and be committed to creating what we're wanting and willing to create out of that, that is a moment where we're in our truth and we're in our power. Now, that doesn't mean not standing for things. Think about Martin Luther King, right? Martin Luther King was a man of non-resistance. He taught, non-violence, and he taught the path. So how do you hold in the space a waking up and a commitment to standing for things and also being with what is? Well, you step into what is and you become what you want to see from that.
This is a difficult and a really, really, really good question. Personally, I felt a little bit like one of those weeble wobble little characters, and I find myself returning again and again to mindful breath, to mindfulness, and to principle. And the way that I'm personally working with all of what's currently going on in our country and, of course, affecting people around the globe is some words that I heard recently, that everyone deserves a fair, just, I can't remember my third word, it's my new mantra. Everyone deserves a fair, just, and inclusive world. And so when I find myself being taken off center, taken off principle, and focusing on a personality, or focusing on he did, they did, she did, I come back to what is my purpose. I'm interested in committed to discovering exactly what it is mine to do in co-creating justice, divine justice, inclusivity, and fairness. So I keep having to bring it out of personality. I keep having to bring it out of it's about him or them. It's really about what's the truth. What's our divine inheritance? And how do I help manifest that with thought, word, and action?
So we'll pop through some of these a little quicker. I'm looking for ways to dialogue with those in fear consciousness, beyond my own consciousness work, and any practical suggestions. Looking to dialogue with those in fear consciousness, beyond my own consciousness work, and practical suggestions. Any practical suggestions. So they'd like practical suggestions.
It's never up to me, and I'm speaking only for myself, it's never up to me to change someone else's mind. It's up to me to be curious about where they are, what their thoughts are, what their beliefs are. It's also up to me to understand where I am. What are my thoughts? What are my beliefs? What is my truth? And to be able to dialogue from a curiosity rather than a I'm right, you're wrong, and here's how and why you're wrong.
What is Unity's prophetic word, direction for such a time as we are moving through? And I would just say love. Love and creating a world that works for all. This is our path, this is our practice, this is what we are. And this is a great time to be saying to ourselves and to our world, how does that look? How do we show up for that? What is radical acceptance and how do we practice it? There is a great author, Jeff Foster, and another man, Matt Licata, and they do a lot of work with nonduality. But one of Jeff Foster's more recent books is all about nonviolence and nonviolence against the self. So think about that. Am I being violent or attacking it all myself? or any, that would be radical acceptance. The nonviolence piece. So it's not about not standing for things or standing for things for yourself or for your world, but it's about nonviolence. Okay, ready for the next one? I know we have several opportunities to practice group meditation at UVC, but are there any opportunities for learning how to meditate? Some of us have never had anyone really teach us a technique. That's great. And we can do some of that in the meditation group. And also Robert Brummett on Monday nights here, he has a Vipassana meditation that he goes through some of that. But there are a lot of online resources. Deepak Chopra and Oprah have 21-day meditation practices and periods. And then there are also a lot of CDs that walk you through that. So whether it's using a mantra or whether using the breath, but that walk you through even 5-minute meditations. So Googling or getting support from someone that's online. And
do you all teach classes in meditation, or is that a possibility?
It's a possibility, yeah. So if enough people would like a course in that, we can do that. Yeah. That one just has a question mark. In the times we're going through, how do you keep love in your heart when you know wrong things are occurring? Pull out Martin Luther King's sermons and look at them on YouTube and watch them and watch them and watch them again. And also think, how do you keep love in your heart? Because you keep your health and your consciousness high. Because if we don't have love in our hearts, we have nothing. If we don't protect the love that we are, we have nothing left. If we are consumed by hate or anger, then we become that, and that's all we have to give. So protect it vigilantly like it is your source. And we did a talk the other week on agape love. And a few people talked to me after about some challenges they've had with how do I give love to someone or something that is really challenging me in my life or in our global scene. And if the word love is too much, we're talking about not beyond human love, then say to that thing, that person, whatever it is, can you use your power, your spiritual power, and say, agape, agape. Sometimes it helps to have a different word, right? The word God is loaded. The word love is loaded. These words that we have social conditioning around them. If you think about the word agape being a transcendent love that is a power that harmonizes, can you look at anything around you within your own heart and even say to your own heart, agape, and say to something outside, agape? So I'd try that on. That's
where I was going with it is, I think a lot of times when we hear the word love, we go to the human emotion. And I'm going back to Charles Fillmore's Unity co-founder definition of divine love. The mighty power that brings together everyone and everything in the universe. Far beyond my capacity of the human emotion of love. I quicken and activate the power of divine love.
It's a faculty, a power. Does Unity have a social obligation to address the current conversation in our nation concerning human rights, equality, science, earth care, health care, diversity, inclusivity?
Unity at large, all of Unity, or this Unity, Cedar Rapids?
Take your pick. Unity, us as individuals in our community.
It's up to me. I know that. Mm-hmm. It's up to me. I can certainly, in the ministry where I serve, I can certainly ask the question. It's not for me to decide that someone else has to do something about it. It's up to me to decide what I am called to do, and I certainly am willing to raise the question. Are we sitting in what is mine to do as individuals? Because the collective individual is the spiritual community.
And I would say, yes, we do, in the realm that Unity has always been talking about these things. Unity has always stood up for a world that works for all. Honoring diversity has always been on this path of spiritual development and growth where we honor love. So if we were to stop having that conversation because of what's going on around us, that would be a grave mistake. And I think that we would not be standing in our principle and our practice. So to continue teaching what unity is about. It may have a different framework in this day and age, but I do think that it's core to our principles. I don't know what we would be talking about if we weren't talking about love and a world that works for all and using our spiritual practice in our principles in active ways in our world. How do I not despair in this political climate? I think that's a good one. I think that, and you can, if you're not in despair in this political climate and you're in celebration, I think you can apply it to whatever it is in your life that there is despair. How do I not despair? I get support from other people. I find like-minded people. I step into my power, and I recognize that, depression is anger towards inward. Anger acting out is something that we don't want to see. That can be hate. So what do we do with anger? We recognize that anger or despair, that this is all just energy. So find out how to utilize that energy. Find out how to put it in motion for good, in motion to create light. And that will lift the despair. How does unity teach us to deal with those lost in fear, hatred, bigotry, and fascism? Show us how to pray about this, how to pray and to be about this. Did we just answer that a little? Have we answered that one? Okay. How do I help a child build their practice when that child is angry, hurt, and non-trusting? How do you love a person who constantly lies to you? Shkalala. Well, how do you help a child build their practice? Children are amazing at meditation and mindfulness. So you start giving them techniques of, like I have a friend that's a parent of little ones that are 3. And when they start getting upset, she says, let's do our breath. And they go, wherever they are, they just stop and they go, and then they calm down after. So you find techniques like that and you apply them. You teach them. When we've had the kids come to our camp, our summer meditation, the parents have told me, parents and grandparents, that they come home with those meditations. They'll use them in the car on the way to work. So even a mantra, using affirmations with them, that's the beginning of a spiritual practice with them. And how do you love a person who constantly lies to you? I think the very first thing, is you love yourself enough to rearrange that relationship so that you are in a healthy space and have healthy boundaries with that person, so that you rearrange it to a degree that lying becomes something that it's like, oh, that's about them, and I bless them, and I have compassion for them, that's how they operate. But you have enough love and compassion for yourself that if that affects your life in a severe or serious way, you put in place whatever you need so that no longer is entering your field and your life in a way that's destructive or emotionally causing turmoil.
Of course, I came up with a quip, from a distance.
That was our song last Sunday, from a distance. How do you love them from a distance? She's
quite
funny.
A distance.
That's someone that has in place healthier boundaries than someone else on the stage. I say rearrange and keep loving. No, just kidding. Sorry. Okay. What would you recommend to help remedy the habitual labeling of something as bad or good? I think you addressed this before. The habitual labeling, what you do to address that is you recognize that we live in a field of duality as well, that we have the human condition and we have the spiritual condition. And the spiritual condition, so much is seen through the lens of the human condition, and I think you addressed that before.
Well, and I think it's really important to notice our propensity to name it, and what lens we're using to name it. And I just, when I first woke up to that, I just spent probably a good year asking myself, what did I just make that mean? So continually keeping myself in that question opens my awareness to how I give it meaning.
Okay, so there are so many other amazing questions, and that's what we have time for today. But we will be taking these questions and we will be putting them into future talks. And I just want to honor everyone for your energy and your intention in these questions today. Nice job. Well done. Thank you.